Hi, I'm April.
And I'm Bailey.
We are real-life friends and neighbors.
Together we run a business called Passionist Designs.
Our favorite part of our job is being in people's homes and hearing their stories. As we became inspired by these stories, we wanted to share them with others. That's where the Nestled podcast was born.
So join us each week as we are encouraged to pursue our own design decisions based on what we love instead of what fills our Instagram feed. Every home has a story, and we can't wait to hear yours.
Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back.
Welcome to the Nestled podcast. If it's your first time joining us, we're so glad you're here.
Yep. We are kind of getting back to life this week. If you've been listening to the past couple weeks, you know everybody was sick, but now all the kids are well.
Everyone's at school.
We are well. The sun is shining today.
We're trying to make up for lost time and get back in order in our homes and in our business.
Yeah. Not there yet, but we're working on it.
No, we're trying to figure out taxes. You know, it's just that time of year. It's that time of year. We are also just want to continue to encourage ourselves and you to each week look around you and find things, whether it be physical things or people or things that are in your life that you can say, I am thankful for this, and for us to have a heart of contentment. Mm-hmm. So that kind of leads us into what we are thankful for this week.
And what we're thankful for is just women who are encouragers. Because you all know the people in your life that just do a really good job at spurring you on. And our guest today is one of the best encouragers that we know. I guess we can say we know her now that she's been on our podcast.
And yeah, it's just so encouraging to have people who, no matter what stage of life they're in and the success that they've had, that they're willing to invest in people who are maybe a few steps behind them.
Right.
And we all can look around and say, okay, here's someone that I can encourage. Here's a lady that I can be intentional in her life. And so we believe with all of our hearts that you guys are going to be inspired and encouraged by our guest today. And if you don't know who she is, here is
Jamie Ivey!
Hey, Jamie Ivey. How are you?
Hi. Hey, guys.
Jamie, you don't know this, but our listeners have been anticipating your coming on our show because you were on our wish list, and they did a few stories, and we're like, tell Jamie Ivey that she should come on our show, and everyone was like, come on their show. So anyway, we're really excited to have you today.
Y'all are so sweet. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, Jamie. So for those of our listeners out there who may not know, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family?
I'd love to. My name is Jamie Ivey, and I live in Austin, Texas with my husband and our 4 kids and our 2 dogs and our 3 cats. And we have been in Austin almost 10 years. This summer will be 10 years. And that's the longest we've ever lived anywhere married. So that's kind of cool. I mean, we haven't moved a lot, but you know, you get to a point where you're like, oh, we've been here a long time. And so my oldest is 14, and then I have 2 20-year-olds who are not, I said twin-year-olds, didn't I?
You did.
Because I was about to say that. I have 2 12-year-olds who are not twins. Yo, it's early for me. I just barely got my kids on the bus.
Oh, same. Our houses were just buzzing with children, and now they're empty, sort of. So we get it.
Well, I have 2 12-year-old boys who are not twins, but they are both, they're 6 months apart. And then my daughter is 10. And I have a podcast and wrote a book, and that's what I get to do.
All right. So like we were saying earlier, our Instagram followers have known for a while that we really wanted to interview you. And so for those of us who follow you, we get to see your house a lot thanks to Instagram. And it's adorable and really unique, actually.
Thank you. Thank you.
So is design something that you would say comes natural to you?
Oh, no, not at all. In fact, I always say this. I think the joke's on y'all that you have me on your podcast and it's a design podcast. Because if you see anything awesome at my house, usually my husband is behind it, actually. And so he's the real star of design. He just really, he's a creative, he's an artist, you know, all of those things. And so he has this eye for things. Now, I would say, like a lot of the projects we've done recently, we've done together, and I do have some input, which makes me feel just like I want to just pat myself on the back and call my real design friends and tell them, look what I picked out. But I think we have similar styles, so it helps. But my husband, Aaron, is behind most things that you see at our house.
Awesome.
Right. And for people who don't know who Aaron is the worship pastor at your church.
He is.
Aaron has been a huge encouragement to me. I'm actually a worship leader, and I've watched a lot of his sessions on worship and that kind of thing. And actually, one of his songs is like one of our church's favorites right now. Bailey, I don't know if you even know that he wrote "Jesus Is Better."
Well, I looked it up last night when you said
that.
I was like, well, what song is his? That's our favorite.
Yeah.
Isn't that such a great song?
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
Yes, it's fabulous. And you can just tell him how encouraging he is to me as a worship leader.
Well, I will. That is so great. The church that we go to, they value worship. We value worship so much. And I hear people all the time say exactly what you just said. And so that's a really cool statement about our church and Aaron and that whole ministry.
Yeah. And so I do see how, I know for me that music and creativity and design and all of that kind of flows together. And so, so I could see how that would be a thing for him to be the leader in that in your family.
Right.
One of the things that we've seen that you did recently is you painted the outside of your house. And
oh gosh, y'all. This was a big deal. This is a big deal.
I love it so much. And actually, I weighed in on your Instagram, and I was one of the few people who said,
go
paint it dark.
Okay, well, good. Well, you won. Well, the funny thing is we had to paint our house because we live in a log cabin, actually, which is kind of crazy. I mean, when we were looking at houses, we found this house, and it is just on a beautiful piece of property, and it was everything we wanted. And it was a log cabin, and I was so against it because nothing had been done to it in 30 years. And so you can imagine the state that it was in. And I brought my girlfriend, Catherine, out here, and she is like a legit designer like you guys. And I asked her, I said, can we do this? Like, can we make this place a home? And she's like, oh, of course you can. So the wood on the logs, it had to be stained. And so we thought, let's just kind of shake things up around here. And so we went super dark because I've always wanted like a white farmhouse. I just had this dream of this white farmhouse with the what is that? A tin roof, which we do have. And, I just wanted that kind of feel. And the people that were painting the house are like, there's no way you can get this wood like that because it will just seep through and it will crack and all the things. And so we went dark, and we absolutely love it so much.
It looks so great. So great.
Really
so much. It's funny because the neighbors would walk by, and we live in a relatively older neighborhood, and a lot of the neighbors would be like, huh. Okay. And then some of them will come back like a few weeks later. They're like, at first we didn't like it, but it's growing on us, guys. And so, yes, we painted our house dark, and we love it.
It looks so great. And you just did a remodel as well, right? Upstairs?
We've done several remodels in our house since we bought it, since it was, so old. But the latest one we did was we had a really too big, when a room's like too big, it just doesn't work well, right? So we had this huge room upstairs. It was the game room, and it had a couch and a TV. It also had a table and lots of bookshelves, and my office was in a closet there. And we have 4 kids, and we have 5 bedrooms, and I am perfectly fine with people sharing rooms. My kids have always shared rooms. We lived in a smaller house before this where it wasn't an option. But my 14-year-old's getting older, and we just kind of thought we want to give him a space. And so we cut that room in half and built a bedroom. And y'all, because this is not my job, I was just kind of waiting the whole time to see, is this room really going to look like it's been here forever? Like these construction people are telling me it's going to, and it does. Right. If you walk to my house, you would not know that we added that room. It is just amazing, and we love it so much. The game room it's used better now, if that even makes sense, because it's ginormous. Yeah. And then my son has a room. They hang out in the game room. So that's our latest project that we did.
And then you have another project that you're working on now.
We got projects coming out, and I'm so...
As if your life is not busy enough. Yeah. Like, let's do house remodels and add projects on projects.
Every time we finish a project, because when you have construction or you're adding something, there are always people at your house. And that does not bother me because we're used to that. Aaron's studio's out here. So we're used to people in and out. But it does get to a point where you're like, okay, I see your face every day, and I'm not married to you. You're going to have to stop over here. Yeah. And so we just are redoing this barn on our property, and we've had this, it's a pretty big space. I don't know the square footage of it, but it's literally been where we hold our, we have a big lawnmower now because we live on acreage. And so we hold our lawnmower in there. It's like a barn full of crap, if I could just say that. You know, if you have that place.
Right.
Everything ends up there. You don't know what this tool is, throw it in the barn. You know, we don't know where to put these, put them in the barn. And so we had this crazy idea to redo it and make it kind of this, we call it our party barn. And it took about 3 weeks and they busted their tail. And of course, you guys know, every time I would go out there, he'd be like, Mrs. Ivey, we found something we need to tell you about. You know? So you're like the bid get. You need to like add a couple $1,000s to it because
right.
It's never just what it is.
Right.
And
you're like, I thought we were just taking some walls down.
Yeah, I thought we were going to put some crushed granite in here and take some walls down. Termites and rotted wood and all kinds of stuff. But we're super excited about it. We're actually hosting something next week here and then another thing. And we love entertaining. It is just, we love it so much. And this is just another place on our property where we can entertain. And in fact, we love, like, we hosted things that we're not even at. Like the college minister at our church will come out here and have events, and Aaron and I aren't even here. And that just makes our heart so happy to know that what we have and what, you know, the house that God has given to us, that we get to use it, not just for us, but for other things. So that's our party barn. And we're so excited. The kids are begging for like a TV on the wall and a foosball table, all the things. And we probably just to make their friends come over here. So, but that's our party barn.
I love that. We, one of the things that we are very passionate about, and really the heart behind us starting this podcast, is we were in people's homes. And one of the things we were finding is people were very insecure in their home. And then when we came in and we were able to give them a space that they felt that they loved and was them and they were proud of, then they wanted other people to come into it. And we are very passionate about having everything that we have is the Lord's, and we hold it very open-handedly, just like what you're saying. And we are just stewards of it. And so we started saying, what can we do to encourage people that, like, you don't have to have it all together. You don't have to have a designer to come in and fix your home for you to be able to use it. And so I love that you guys are taking what the Lord has given you and that you're using it to love on the people around you, to invite people in, and being so hospitable. But how is that in this season of life that is so busy? Just your having people in and hosting and that kind of thing. Has it proven to be more difficult right now for you guys?
You know, that's a great question. And when we look back, when Aaron and I look back on our life, this has been a passion for us forever. And, you know, I love what you're saying when you say you're encouraging people that your house, it doesn't have to be perfect, but when you feel comfortable in it is when you're willing to bring people in and to open up your home. And for us, you know, we've been, you know, married 17 years, 4 kids. So we're probably in the biggest house we've ever lived in. And we hope to be like raise our kids here. And I want my kids to get married on this property in the party barn, you know, all kinds of things. So this is kind of like we feel really grounded here. But I'll tell you what, the house we lived in before was half the size. I could touch my neighbor's fence. It was on the east side of town in an underprivileged, underdeveloped neighborhood. And you know what? We hosted all the time. And so I always say it doesn't matter how big your space is. It doesn't matter. It just matters, are you willing to open up your home? And I'll say this, my kids, with them being older, I can say this about a lot of areas in our life, that time is harder because my kids need me more in a sense. And that sounds weird to mamas who are listening that have babies like nursing on their breasts all day long. And they're like, I'll tell you who needs me, this child. But it's a different kind of need. Whereas I remember when our kids were little, I mean, they're in bed at 7. We're eating dinner at 5:30. The kids are in bed at 7. And so there are so many times that we had people over at 8 o'clock. And were we tired the next day? Yeah, of course. But it was worth it to invest in those relationships. And my kids were in bed and we were able to have adult conversations. Well, y'all, my kid went to bed after me last night. You know, I mean, I went to bed at 10:15. I think he went to bed at 10:30. So it's different now. They have all of these things going on. And so for Aaron and I, it has to be a lot more intentional, where we kind of have to, there's not as many spur of the moments. Hey, you want to come over for dinner? Because we're usually getting dinner and then taking someone to practice or decom, or hosting the kids. And so it's a lot more intentional. And so we have to really think about that and plan for that as well. So yes, the season is harder. It's harder for us because of time now, whereas it was harder when the kids were little because I was tired, you know, just to be honest. but we had to pick what's worth it and what's not, you know?
Right. My son actually turned 14 this month as well, my oldest. And I have 5 ranging from 5 up to 14. And I also have a 12-year-old. And so my husband and I both had a moment this year. It's his last year of middle school. And we just had like this panic moment. We planted a church 6 years ago, and we just looked at each other and said, if the next 4 years are like the last 6 years, we're going to miss it. You know, it's just so hard to balance it all. And I know balance is one of those things that it's like, I don't know that anyone ever really balances it. But what you're saying, you know, it's just this life gets busy, and our kids are I literally spend hours every afternoon in my car. I just drive from this person to this place to this place. And then it's like, my son just a second ago texted me and said, I need you to bring some soccer cleats. For my friend, he doesn't have, I'm like, to the school today, in between this and my meeting with a client. And so, but at the same time, like, we have to be so careful to make sure that our home is open to them and to their friends. And so it's just a really different season. It's so sweet, but we've had to say a lot of no's. And we've had to start changing. We are not hosting a small group for the first time. And it was just like, we love having people in our home, and we will still do that. But like in this season, with our kids being teenagers and in the youth group and playing sports and all of that, like, that has to be something that we can go to somebody else's house for, but we can't host it right now.
And I think that's good for you to say that, for people to hear that, to see that there's freedom in that as well. And you're not hosting because you don't want to give your life away for the church, and you're not hosting because you just feel like, I just want all my time back to me. But you're hosting, you're not hosting because you look around and you think, I have 4 years left with this kid. And when you said that a while ago, I got tears in my eyes, because it's so true. Like, my family is the most important thing. And Aaron and I both have jobs that require things of us that maybe some other people's jobs don't. And so for us, what you're saying is what I'm like, that's all I'm saying these days is I say no to everything. Because if I have a day home with my kids or a night with my kids, I'm always going to choose them. And that's been hard for me with relationships, you know, just to be honest. But I am really, really invested in making sure that if my kid is saying, hey, I want to hang out with you, I'm going to say yes. And not because my kids run my house by any means, but because I value their relationship and pouring into them at this stage. So good for you, girl.
Yeah. I feel like we've been in a similar season as well, not with older kids, but we have a 6-year-old, well, she'll be 6 tomorrow, which is crazy. A 6-year-old and then a 4-year-old and then our new baby. But our 6-year-old we adopted internationally. And I know that you did that as well, correct?
Yes. 2 internationally, 1 domestic.
Right. Did you find that when you guys came home, or when you got your babies home, I know at least one of them came to you because I watched the video the other day. Your sweet son coming home.
We cried with you.
We did. We cried with you. But did you find that when your babies came home that you had to, that was another time that you kind of had to step away and like make home a safe place for them for a little while?
Oh, yes, for sure. I mean, I am a really big advocate for people bringing in kids in their home that have been through trauma and just kind of pulling back from life to pour into those kids for lots of reasons that we don't have to go into on this podcast, but just to make them feel safe and to make them know who their parents are. And the list is long, but we did that when my son came home. He was 4.5. My daughter came home, she was 23 months. And so we did that to a sense for her as well. But it seemed like we did it more when he came home. And I don't know why. Maybe they came home 3 months apart. So maybe it was just like, oh my gosh, what happened to my life? You know, everything. Where am I? What's going on? But we pulled back, and that's a time in our life when we started probably the most of putting our kids to bed and then having people over for a couple of reasons. Number one, we craved some like people pouring into us because life was really hard then. And then we needed our kids to be in bed, you know, for other reasons about adoption, just so that it doesn't matter on this show. But, you know, we kind of did that. But I really wanted my kids to feel safe for sure. And so when our son came home, the last kid to join our family, we did that. We pulled back and we kind of nestled down within our own little family for a while. And that was really hard for me personally because I was the main caregiver. You know, eventually Dad had to go back to work and I didn't have a job then. And so I and I loved it. I'm not complaining one bit, but I was the main caregiver. And so it was hard not leaving the house and not having people over and adjusting our lifestyle because of this new addition. But it was worth it, and it just changed things for a little bit.
Right. And I think that's important for people to hear. I know other people have adopted who listen to this as well. And it is so hard not to feel guilt in that, especially when my husband and I, from the start of our marriage, we were going out and telling everyone, like, you need to live missionally, you need to invite people in. And our house was always open. Like, if someone needed to host a place to host a baby shower, have it here. And we were hosting a small group from the moment we got married and that sort of thing. And then suddenly it was like, sorry guys.
Right, doors closed.
You can, we would love for you to leave us a meal at the door.
Yes, yes.
And then I think that we were home for a couple months and people were kind of like, why aren't y'all hosting a small group again? Not to our face, but it was really hard for people to understand, like, this season is maybe going to be a long one, and then a lot of the stuff didn't get hard till about 6 months in. And at that point, I think people were really losing their patience with us having that door shut. But we were saying, like, no, now we have to buckle down more than ever. And so now she turns 6 tomorrow, and we're taking the reins on the small group that April is no longer going to be hosting. Because now it's a season that we're saying, like, okay, we're pretty sure we can do it now. So for moms out there who feel like you just can't, it's not necessarily forever.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think it's just acknowledging, like both of you are saying, here's why, and it's a season. So it's not like I said, earlier to April, it's not like you're saying I can't because I don't want to and because I don't want to live missionally, but you're saying just in this season I can't, and that's okay. And the people around us need to be sensitive to that as well, and say, okay, well, this is just a season. How can we serve you in the midst of the season, even though you're not pouring out and serving other people?
Right. And one of the things that I have, and some of it comes with age, I think, and some of it comes with doing ministry for a while and learning that, like, you just can't make everybody happy all the time. But, getting to a point that that there are going to be people who don't understand. And you just have to say, I'm sorry. Like, I hate that you don't get it. And I hope that it's not relationship severing, but there are a lot of relationships, even as you were saying, that really do suffer, but you have to choose the best and what's most important at that time. And I think that season is different for all of us at different times. And I do think that most people come through and they realize a place of, like, now I get it.
Yeah, totally. And I'm a big believer too in inviting people into your life who you can say these things to them, and you can say, will you tell me, do you feel as though this is a selfish decision? Do you not because, like, your kid came home and you need to buckle down?
Right.
Because that's just a thing. Right. But do you feel as though this is the right yes or the right no? And people that you love and you trust and they have your best interest and they know you. You know what I'm saying? Like, they know your heart. Because there are some times that we need a little pushback, and
absolutely.
But there are also some times where you need someone to say, you are absolutely doing the best thing right now for your family. And so even just not that we need that, if God has asked you to do something, it's not that you need that human approval,
right?
But when you've invited people in your world to tell you give them permission to say, speak into my life. It is a good thing to hear that as well.
Absolutely.
So, Jamie, tell us a little bit about your book, if you can. We're so excited about it coming out. And then we realized that we're going to air this podcast on the same day.
Yay! Y'all are so awesome. Oh, y'all are so sweet. It's called If You Only Knew, My Unavoidable Story of Becoming Free. And it comes out on the 30th, which you just said the day this show airs, which is super fun. And you can get it wherever you buy books. That's wherever you would get your book, you can get it.
Right.
But I wrote this book, and a lot of it is my story of growing up in the church and not really following Jesus and making some really bad choices that had some consequences on my own life. And then really meeting him in a personal way for the first time at Passion Conference in 1999. And it was there that God kind of captured my heart for the first time, even though I knew everything about him because I grew up in the church. And I had a great family. But then I gave my life to the Lord, and I started dating who's my husband now. And he was a youth pastor at the time. So he's in ministry and working at a church. And I just felt, I don't know that I deserve this. And I don't know why that it felt like being a pastor's wife was special or something. And I just felt really inadequate and I felt unworthy. And I for many years felt if people knew where I had been, if people knew things I had done, what would they think about me, and what, early in my marriage, I thought, would they think that, Erin got not the best wife? And so all those things just plagued me, and shame and guilt. And so for years, I didn't it wasn't like I couldn't function by any means, but there was this part of my story that I really just felt embarrassed about and ashamed and, still guilty for it. And I just couldn't capture the freedom that God talks about in this one specific area of my life. I knew it was there because I would read about it, but I didn't feel free. I still felt like I almost had my own cross to bear, that I need to be sad and guilty and ashamed of this for the rest of my life, Jesus, because it was so bad. And it was about 10 years ago when we moved here, and I really, really got in a great community of girlfriends and discipleship and getting in God's word, that I started to realize, the thing is that when I'm open with my story and I share about the ways that God has changed my life and the way that God had stepped in, I give him so much glory when I'm willing to share the mess.
Right.
And for me, the book, is sharing stuff that happened 20 years ago, but y'all, I could share mess, the past year that God's working in. I just can't share that publicly because him and I are still working on it, And so the mess is still there, and he's still in the business of sanctifying and moving me to look more like him. But this is that story of me just really saying, God, I'm gonna not be ashamed of this because you sent Jesus, and I'm not gonna live in shame and guilt and embarrassment, because when I tell people that you saved me and that you use me for ministry, and I have these choices in my past, man, people are going to say, what an awesome God that is. And so that is the story. Right. That's the book in a nutshell.
And I think that's going to be so freeing for so many women. And even people like me who live in the freedom of Christ. I've been so convicted of thinking what would my if you only knew moment be? And it's well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. And I'm okay, God, I haven't actually given this stuff to you.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to work through some of that, not even having read the book yet.
Yeah, and it's not it's not like I'm saying, hey, everyone, write a book, write a blog, say it on a podcast, share it out loud. I just happen to be doing that because that's my platform. And these things that I'm sharing, y'all, this was 20 years ago, and God and I worked through this, and I worked through this personally with friends before I ever talked about it online or anything. And so for me, my hope for women is that they'll just say, man, do I have people in my life that I trust with my story? Do I have people in my life that I trust to say, here's the bad and look how awesome God is? And are we women who are going to take those stories and really hold them and cherish them? And when you hear someone confess, oh my gosh, I've never told anybody about this struggle, that you're going to look at them and say, all right, let's Jesus is better than this. Let's point you to Jesus and let's see what we can do. It's funny because the last chapter of the book is called Jesus is Better, about the song that Erin wrote. But that's my hope for women when they read this book. Yeah.
Yes. I think that it's going to resonate with so many people. And like Bailey said, we already feel like it has resonated with our own hearts. And I just think of so often how we think, and as women, we get to this point of but if you knew the deepest, darkest parts of who I am, then you wouldn't love me and you wouldn't accept me. Right. And in Christ, of course, we're well, he loves me, but he kind of, he's perfect. And so, I don't have to tell anyone else, but I know for my own self, the freedom that came in the last several years of God bringing people into my life and allowing me to have friends who there's no judgment for anything that is, I can share the most petty things, and I can share the really hard struggles, and to be fully known and fully accepted and loved by his people. It's so freeing. And to have people, it is, and to have people in your life, and then also to look around at women though and think you don't have those people, and it makes me so sad for you. That you don't feel like you can really be yourself, and you're trying to put on or trying to impress people because you don't think that you're enough. Right. And I think that is across the board, because we see it in people's homes, that that people feel like they're not enough, that their stuff is not good enough, that their house is not good enough. And then it resonates in every area of our lives, though. It's in relationships, and how much freedom comes with just what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And, Bailey has been one of those friends for me. Mm-hmm. And there are people that I have in my life now that I'm like, there's nothing I could do, I mean, short of killing someone. And then I feel like Bailey would be like, what did you do?
You must have had a really good reason.
But, that these people are like in my corner, and they're going to call out sin, and they're going to tell me whenever I need to check myself. But at the same time, like, they're going to love me and they're going to accept me. And that is this picture of the gospel that we are missing if we don't have those, and we don't open ourselves up to that. And it's just such a beautiful thing. I cannot wait to read the book.
Well,
I'm really excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well, and also real quick to just tie that in to like all the hospitality stuff. That's why we encourage people to bring others into their homes, because you're not going to have people if you're completely closed off. Yeah, and we had a guest a few weeks back who said when someone enters the threshold of your home, that relationship changes. And that is so true.
It's so true. So. We feel like that, even to take that to another step, we feel like that around the dinner table. Is that, we love entertaining, and Aaron loves cooking for people. It's how he says, I love you, I'm here for you. And so when we invite people over and we eat around our table, it is a real act of like, hey, listen, we're here. What is your thing? Let's open up and talk. And if you'll notice, I mean, people will talk more around a table, around a meal, than any other place I think that we can gather with people.
Right.
And I don't know if it's like, how they tell you, like, get your kids working with their hands.
Yeah.
And then they'll talk to you. And I don't know, people are just eating, and then all of a sudden they're just bearing their souls.
Right.
But it is, the home and the dinner table is a really, really special place when we invite people in to our worlds.
Yeah. Right. And it's not the same when you're sitting at a dinner table at a restaurant. Not that I'm saying don't go to restaurants, but people open up to you so much more in your house.
Totally.
They just do. So we know that people can find your book at anywhere books are sold, but where else can they find you on the internet?
You can find anything about me on jamieivey.com. There's stuff there for my podcasts, for our YouTube stuff, for our book, the book tour, all kinds of stuff. And where did you say y'all are?
Mobile, Alabama. You're not coming to Mobile.
No, you're not.
I'm not. I am coming to Mobile this spring, but it's for a college thing, and so I think you have to go to that school.
Is it University of Mobile?
I think so.
Can we do a thing with you that we have not tried yet with anyone else? So this is new, but we want to do like love it or leave it, and we're just going to say a few things, and you can either say love it or leave it.
Got it.
All right, the first one is one that we have gotten very mixed reviews about on Instagram lately. Jewel tones.
When you say, this is how you can tell I'm not the perfect guest for you guys.
Yeah.
When you say jewel tones, you're like, she's a fraud. No. I don't even know what you mean, you guys.
Like,
decorating with colors that look like jewels.
Like deeper, richer colors.
Like green, deep green, like emerald and ruby and sapphire.
Okay. I'm going to say leave it.
Okay. Farmhouse.
Love it.
Love it. Velvet furnishings.
I love it in a little bit, maybe a chair in the corner.
Yeah, that's fair. An Instapot.
Love it.
Same. Facebook.
Leave it.
Us too. That's why we put that on there. We're so over Facebook right now. Okay, two more. Macrame.
What did you say?
Macrame. Jamie, I love this so much.
Y'all, I'm the biggest dork. And I'm just
it's like the rope. Like wall hangings made of rope. That's like.
And they also,
we'll send you a picture.
It's Joanna Gaines uses a lot of it, but like sometimes now it's like the rope that has like a plant holder in it, that hangs.
Okay. Yes, I like those.
Okay, and then mixed metals.
Love it.
Awesome. Okay, and then real quick, just so that you know, whenever you're saying I'm a fraud and I shouldn't be on here, you're exactly who we want on here because we're trying to encourage people. You do not have to be a designer to love your home. and to be comfortable in your home.
Thank you guys.
So that's like the whole point. I don't want you to feel like I'm not a designer, so why did they ask me on here? Like, that is exactly who we're trying to get on here.
Okay, good. I'm your target audience. Thank you.
You are perfect.
Jamie, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. We are so honored that you would come, especially when you're so busy. We really
Y'all
appreciate it.
Y'all are so awesome. Thanks for having me.
First of all, I hope you guys can appreciate that April and I tried so hard to not fangirl the entire time.
We really did. Our voices got a little squeaky a couple of times.
If it's a little higher pitched than normal, it's because we were real excited at 7:30 in the morning to talk with Jamie Ivey on our little podcast. But one thing that she said that I loved hearing her talk about was her girlfriends and just the women in her life that she could be just fully herself with and be fully known by. And I know I'm so grateful for April and the other women in my life who I'm able to share that relationship with. And my encouragement to you is, if you have that in your life, great. Love on those people a little extra this week. And if you don't have that, but it's something that you want, maybe just open yourself up to someone and start to be that for them. Just that, work real hard to be somebody's safe place and just see where it goes.
Right. And I was so encouraged by our conversation with Jamie and talking about through all stages of life, through every season, there are different times that we have to shut off certain parts of our life, certain parts of our home, and that we can't be hospitable maybe in the way that we want to. But in all of those seasons, we hold everything open-handedly. And that even in seasons that she was talking about now where they're allowing people to use the things that God's blessed them with even when they're not a part of it, but that we all look around and we think, okay, what do I have that can be used as a vessel to bless other people? And also, is this a season that I have to be really intentional about my yeses and my nos? Or is this a season that I can just really dive hard into relationships and love people, without any abandon and just have my home open? Whatever that season looks like, my encouragement is to you is that we take action in loving people. Right. And that's what we want to encourage you guys to do through this podcast is to be hospitable and be able to love the people around you.
Thank you guys so much for encouraging us by just listening to what we have to say every week. It blesses us so much more than you know. And for those of you who have left reviews, thank you so much. For those of you who haven't, but you enjoy what you hear, we would love it if you could leave us a review on iTunes.
Right. And also, thank you guys for interacting with us on Instagram. It helps to keep us in your feed. Right now, the way that things are with Instagram, if you don't like and comment, then you're not going to see our stuff. And we love getting to talk with you on there. And so we look forward to that each week as well. You can find us on Instagram at Nestled Podcast, and our website is poshnestdesigns.com. Visit us, and we look forward to being with you guys again next week.
See you then.